Welcome back on the mat. So for a bit of a slow flow, our starting position, a nice upright seated pose. Sit up tall, maybe even pull your shoulders close to your ears, create a bit of tension in your shoulders and neck. Then pull your shoulders slightly back and relax them down. Just feel the tension leaving your body in the upper back. As you do so, close your eyes and sit up nice and tall. Just focusing on the inhales and exhales, and you're going to spend some time with yourself on the mat, doing a few movements for the body that's beneficial. And you won't be pushing your body too hard. Start to deepen your inhales and exhales. The breath is, after all, the foundation of our yoga practice, regardless of the intensity on the mat. So even in a more gentle class, the breath comes first. You breathe deeply and slowly for about an hour. Slow down your breathing a little bit more. And just know that you can most definitely make use of your Ujjayi breathing if you want, and if you don't, just keep nice, deep, rhythmic inhales and exhales. And slowly open your eyes. So starting with the wrists, you're going to take your hands out in front and then place the fingers pointing towards the body onto the floor. You'll probably not get the palms down onto the mat, but you stretch them down to feel a nice stretch along the hip flexors. Well, the hip flexors, the flexors of the forearms at least. Just feel the inner forearms getting a nice stretch. The inner forearms tend to be a bit stronger than the outer forearms. So you keep your breath nice and slow and you just feel into the arms. Now let's get out of that one and then take your left arm out in front. Turn your fingers down to the floor. Place your hand on top to match. Just gently push towards the body. So we're giving the wrist a bit of a stretch in the opposite direction. So we're flexing in the wrist. We don't really get into this shape with the hand on the mat. And then let go, do the opposite side. You lengthen, hand in line with the shoulder, bring the fingers down and gently push towards the body. Then you can slowly let go. Shake it out. You'll place your hands onto your shoulders, so thumbs at the back, all the other fingers in the front. Elbows in line with the shoulders, but shoulders drawn away from the ears. You inhale to the left, exhale to the right. You don't have to do very big movements, but inhale to left, exhale to right. I'm also going to move to my left, so don't get confused. It's inhale, exhale. So a slightly faster breathing pattern, but we're just working into the spine. Feel the back muscles working as you rotate from one side to the other. Keep the shoulders away from ears. Just another few seconds. And then back to center. Bring your hands down. Kind of move further down the arms. So it's maybe not the focus, the elbows in itself, but it's a bit of a bicep and anterior shoulder stretch. So legs can be straight, hands walking away from the body, and then you start to lift in your chest. You can even step your feet onto the mat. If you feel that you want to move a bit deeper, you can lift your hips and move the hips closer to the feet. But the idea is to keep length in your back, to open in the chest, and to keep the arms straight. And you've got weight on the hands, obviously, and as you push into the floor and drive the chest up, you might feel that you're almost getting a bit of a stretch along the inner elbows. Now, it mustn't be sore, but you are lengthening your arms out a little bit in this extended shape, arms being behind your body. Then, slide your hands a little bit closer and turn your fingers to point forwards. Use the in-breath, push out of your feet, lift your hips up into tabletop. You're going to find that it's such a nice way to still be getting into the front parts of the shoulders. Exhale, slowly lower back down. And then you can cross your legs, place hands onto the mat, getting onto all fours. So in the all fours position, get the fingers to point out to the sides, shift weight from left to right. Make sure you've got your knees below the hips as you just move around. You can even, instead of simply moving in a linear fashion left and right, you can move left and then sort of move back and forwards, creating circles. Just shifting weight around on the wrists to work on the mobility in the wrists and to strengthen a little bit. There's obviously a chain reaction, so when we do something like this, it's not just the wrists, it's the forearms, and it goes all the way to the shoulders. It's got a bit of a ripple effect. And now change rotation. Take it to the opposite side. Arms can stay straight. If you tend to have a bit of hyperextension in the elbows, when it looks like the arm is bending in the direction that it shouldn't be bending when you straighten your arms, then you can always just bend into the elbow joints till your arms are straight, so that you don't load the joint all too much. Turn your hands back into a normal position, tuck your toes, and from this box pose, if you lift your hips, you're in a shorter downward facing dog. So get into the short down dog and walk it out. This is now a nice time to really straighten out the arms. You've got less weight on the hands than on the feet. So lock your arms, roll the shoulders away from the ears, and just aim to keep your back straight. Now start to walk your feet all the way up in between your hands. You can take your time, and as you step the feet closer, you'll probably bend into the knees, keeping the hands on the floor. Now inhale, halfway lift. Exhale to your first forward bend. Feel into the hamstrings. Inhale, take arms to ceiling, taking arms all the way up, and exhale, bring it down. And turn sideways so you can see clearly, but you're going to pretend to place a teacup in your right hand. Opposite hand can be on your waist. Bring your fingers in towards your abdomen, lift your elbow. Then don't let the tea spill as you take your hand over your head and back to center. It's a bit of a nerve stretch, and then take it over the other way, reversing the action back to where you started. If you struggle to get this sort of movement, then just keep playing with it. It's nice about the video, you can even pause and play with it for a while. One more. Hand in, over where we started, and then take it back to where we started. Switch, opposite hand. You might even find that there's a bit of mobility issues, or it's more tight on the one side than the other. I can feel my one side being a little bit more stiff. And back to your starting point, and then once again go for the second round. And over your head, back to where you started, last one. Bring it in, out, over, and final rotation, back to where you started. Mountain pose, interlace your fingers behind your back. Instead of going with that usual interlacing, switch your hands, get it the other way around. So it's simply just the bottom pinky that changes if you go for the more unnatural side. Roll the shoulders back and down, lift in your chest. Your back is naturally going to arch a little bit. So instead of really allowing the back to arch all too much, tilt the pelvis slightly. Just feel that you get a bit of core engagement. Take a nice deep inhale. Exhale, get into a bit of an L shape, even if it means that you need to bend into your knees. So we're just warming up the hamstrings, but more importantly, we're getting nice activation in the hamstrings for our forward bending. One more deep inhale. Exhale into a forward bend, stretch with your arms over your head. Then release your hands onto the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Plant your hands. Exhale, step back into a plank pose. Bring your knees down. Only on the exhale, shift weight forwards and down, chest and chin onto the mat. Inhale into a cobra, so you don't even have to straighten the legs. Pelvis down, lifting in the chest. Lower back down, tuck your toes. Push back into almost child's pose, and then straighten your legs into a downward facing dog. Inhale, raise your right leg. Exhale, step right foot in between hands. Place your back knee down. As you stay in this low lunge with the hands on the floor, keep the top of the back foot on the mat, and having weight on the hands and the front foot, start to straighten your back leg with the aim of getting the back knee to not touch the mat. If it's too intense on the ankle, then do the same thing, just don't lift the knee off the mat, because we are now stretching into the front part of the ankle. Slowly bring it down, tuck your toes, walk your hands forwards and shift your knee forwards and push the front knee forwards, getting the heel off the mat. So now we're getting knee over toe, but we've got the upper hamstring pushing into the calf muscle. So now that you get into this position, you can drive the knee forwards, but at the same time pull the heel back, and then we get a nice stretch into the ankle. This is a very good way to increase mobility in the ankle joints, especially if you struggle to do that yogic squat where you lower all the way down and you want to keep the heels on the floor. So it's quite beneficial. It's time to get out of this one, so you're going to shift weight back, position hands onto the mat, and then you'll find that you have to step your left foot further back, step the right foot back, get into a down dog. Inhale, raise your left leg. Exhale, step left foot in between hands, bring your back knee down, top of the foot onto the mat, then start to push the top of the back foot into the floor so that you straighten the back leg. If you're not quite there, do the same thing, but just don't lift the kneecap off the mat. Exhale, bring the knee down. Tuck toes, walk the hands forwards and move the knee forwards. So now you start to walk the back foot forwards till you get your left knee to push way out in front with the left heel lifting off the mat. Same thing here, you work the heel down as much as we get this left knee into extreme flexion. You don't want to experience pain in your knee joint. If this movement with the knee being in this flexed position, this maximum range of motion in this direction, you can much rather back out if the knee hurts. But hopefully that's not the case and we can get into the left ankle. So the way we get out of this one, bringing the heel back onto the mat, shift weight back, get your hands in line with your front foot, step your back foot further back, right or left foot to join. Let's get into a downward facing dog. In this down dog, step your feet mat width apart. Then also walk your feet to the back of the mat. Look forwards. Walk your hands more to the front of the mat. Now I'm pretty tall, so you might not utilize the entire length of the mat, but get into a longer sort of downward facing dog stance. And in this longer stance, pull your heels closer to the floor and work your forehead closer to the mat. It's a bit of a stretch for the shoulders. It's okay if the back arches out a little bit. This is not the down dog shape that we want to have. It's just a bit of an active stretch. Then slowly back out of that one. Bring your knees down onto the floor. Tuck your toes and sit back onto your heels. So there's space between the knees. You can sit up and give your toes a little bit of a stretch. So with a class like this, we aim to work through most parts of the body. We've been working on the ankles, pushing knee over toes. In this position, we are getting quite a lot of extension in the toes itself. So we're stretching the bottoms of the feet, we're stretching the toes. We got into the ankles, as I mentioned. We got into the knees by getting them in extreme flexion. We got into the hip area, the glutes. We haven't done a lot of back extensions, but those standing back bends allowed us to get into the upper back, middle back, lower back. We started off with the wrists. We got into the shoulders by stretching into the shoulders a bit. We even warmed up the back by doing those little spinal rotations where you move from side to side. So the idea is just to work into most areas of the body and to leave the class feeling better and more mobile and ready for the rest of the day. Let's get the hands back onto the mat into all fours, and now for very nice spinal movement. Knees below the hips, hands below the shoulders. Exhale, tuck your chin round your spine, cat stretch. Inhale, arch in the back, look up. Exhale, cat stretch. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. Exhale, cat. Inhale, cow. This time round, exhale into a neutral spine. Tuck your toes. We're going to do a little bit of balancing. Bend into both knees, look up. Step feet in between hands. Halfway lift. Exhale, forward bend. Inhale, arms to ceiling. Exhale, mountain pose. Just a very basic balancing exercise that's very effective. Right foot stays on the floor. Left foot to inner thigh. Or you can start by the ankle, calf muscle, eventually inner thigh if you have the balance, just not on the knee. Hands to prayer. Find a spot to focus on and simply hold it here. Your breath stays even. Your body is calm. Your mind is calm. Now reach for the foot with one hand. Take the foot away from your inner thigh, wherever you have it, and just aim to get your foot as close to this half lotus shape as you can. Hold on to the foot with the right hand. Take your left arm around your back. Hold on to your elbow. Just get into this modified position. Eventually we grip hold of the foot with your opposite hand. And in order to release this pose, I would recommend that you first lift your knee up, then let go of your foot. Bring it down. Shake it out if you need to. Maybe it's quite intense on the knee joint to do that rotation. Left foot stays on the floor. Foot onto the ankle, calf muscle, or inner thigh. Hands to prayer, standing up nice and tall. Find that spot to focus on and hold. Bring your hands or one hand onto your foot. As you pull the foot up, you can consider to take the knee up and then place the heel closer to groin and gently start to lower the knee. It's just a safer way to deal with the knee. Take your opposite arm around the back, find your elbow, and stand up nice and tall. It's very gentle, especially when we do extreme flexion in the knee. So we bend the knee like we do now. And then we do a bit of rotation with the foot. Safety always comes first. You definitely don't want to hurt yourself on the yoga mat. The way we get out of this one, lifting the knee up, let go of the foot, bring it back down, shake it out. Final standing posture before we get to a bit of seated forward bending. Step your feet nice and wide, this horse stance, so toes out to the sides. You'll bend at your knees, bring your hands to prayer, and just squat down. Now what's nice about this one, firstly, you want to aim to keep a bit of length in your back. You don't want to arch in the back. But once you've tilted the pelvis and you've got a nice straight line, you can decide how deep you want to sink down. So just listen to your upper legs, see what's doable, and hold it here. Just a little bit of strengthening for the upper legs. Maybe even a bit of core if you make use of your core. Just hold it for about another 30 seconds or so. Inhale, slowly make your way up. You can step to the front end of the mat and then squat all the way down, getting into seated. So as you get to a seated position, left leg will be straight. And once again, do a bit of a modified head to knee pose. Posture that I enjoy quite a bit. So right foot will rest against the inner knee. As you sit up tall, actively work the right knee down to the floor. Keep length in your back. Take a full inhale, arms go up. Exhale, find your leg or find your wrist or just the foot and get into a forward bend. This is your limit, and stay there and breathe. Just enjoy this hamstring stretch on the left leg. Maybe you can go a little bit deeper and use your inhale to straighten the arms, lift in the chest, exhale, release. Straighten your right leg, bend the left, and we once again go for the modified version. Less flexion in the left knee, so it's more forgiving, but it's more difficult to work that leg down. So inhale, take your arms up. Exhale, reach for the front foot, and then find whatever position is good for your body and hold it there. You'll even find that when you draw navel to spine as you hold this position and you get effective core activation, it's going to allow you some more space to go a little bit deeper. But if you go deeper and it doesn't really change the stretch on the hamstring, then rather focus on getting more length in the back. That's going to definitely target the hamstring muscles more. Inhale to do that halfway lift. Exhale to release. Straighten your left leg, final forward bend. Sitting up nice and tall. Nice deep inhale, arms up. Exhale, grip hold to the outsides of the feet or maybe just the legs. And now we're stretching both legs at the same time. It's called Pashimotonasana. Inhale, straighten the arms, lift in the chest, exhale, release. And slowly lower down onto the mat. Just a spinal twist. So we're going to do both legs at 90, arms out to the sides. Nice deep in-breath, exhale, knees over to the right, gaze to the left. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, knees to the left, gaze to the right. Taking your knees back to center. You can step feet onto the mat, and then we straighten our legs, getting ready for corpse pose. So you want to be entirely comfortable. You can turn the elbows slightly in towards the body, palms facing up, legs soft on the mat. Slightly tilt your pelvis, push your lower back into the mat, and then relax. Close your eyes. And for the first time, allow the breath to be natural. So it's just effortless breathing instead of deepening the inhales and exhales. Stay in this corpse pose for as long as you like.